There are moments in history when the world changes forever, not by the clash of armies, nor by the decree of kings, but by an invisible enemy. In the year 1348, England stood on the edge of a catastrophe unlike anything it had ever known. Prosperous towns bustled with merchants. Church bells echoed across the countryside. Farmers worked fertile fields, believing tomorrow would look much like yesterday. They could not have imagined that death was already sailing toward their shores. It arrived quietly, not with banners, not with trumpets, but hidden within merchant ships, clinging to fleas carried by black rats traveling ancient trade routes from the east. Before anyone understood what was happening, England had become the next victim of one of humanity's deadliest pandemics. History would remember it by one terrifying name: the Black Death. The first whispers came from the southern ports. People developed fevers unlike anything physicians had seen before. Pain spread through the body. Dark swellings, called buboes, appeared beneath the arms and around the neck. Within days, many were dead. Families watched loved ones collapse before their eyes. Neighbors locked their doors. Church bells rang from sunrise until long after sunset. Soon, they never stopped ringing. Imagine standing in London during the winter of 1348. The streets, once crowded with traders and craftsmen, grow strangely silent. Market stalls stand abandoned. Smoke rises from hastily dug burial pits beyond the city walls. The smell of burning herbs fills the air, as frightened families desperately search for protection against an enemy they cannot see. No one understands disease. Some believe God is punishing humanity for its sins. Others blame poisoned wells, foreigners, strangers, even the stars themselves. Fear spreads faster than the plague. As the months pass, England begins to unravel. Entire villages disappear from the map. Some lose every resident. Fields lie untouched because there are no farmers left to harvest the crops. Livestock wander freely through empty pastures. Wind blows through houses whose doors will never again be opened. The silence becomes almost unbearable. By the end of the pandemic's first wave, historians estimate that between 1/3 and 1/2 of England's population had perished. Never before had death visited on such a scale. Yet history is rarely written only in tragedy. Sometimes destruction plants the seeds of extraordinary change. With so many workers gone, those who survived suddenly found themselves in demand. Landowners desperately needed laborers. For the first time in generations, ordinary people could demand higher wages. The ancient balance of power began to shift. England's rigid feudal system, which had controlled society for centuries, started to crack. The Black Death did not merely take lives, it transformed the nation itself. Kings attempted to stop the change. New laws froze wages. Workers were ordered to remain where they were. But people had tasted something new: opportunity. For many peasants, life after the plague offered freedoms their parents had never imagined possible. The old social order would never fully recover. Within decades, England would witness unrest, rebellion, and demands for justice that reshaped the kingdom forever. Even the church, once seen as the unquestioned voice of authority, faced a crisis unlike any before. Priests died alongside their congregations. Monasteries emptied. Many wondered why their prayers had gone unanswered. If God had protected his faithful, why had so many innocent people suffered? Questions once whispered quietly became impossible to silence. Faith remained, but unquestioning certainty began to fade. England's spiritual landscape had changed forever. Across the countryside, abandoned villages slowly disappeared beneath forests and fields. Today, archaeologists still uncover forgotten churches, cottages, and graveyards swallowed by time. Beneath peaceful green meadows lie the echoes of entire communities erased within a single generation. Each discovery reminds us that beneath modern England rests another England, one lost to plague. Modern science has finally revealed what medieval physicians never could. The killer was a bacterium called Yersinia pestis. Spread primarily through fleas carried by rats, it traveled rapidly along Europe's trade routes. DNA recovered from ancient plague victims has confirmed what historians long suspected. Yet understanding how the disease spread does not lessen its impact. The Black Death remains one of the greatest human disasters ever recorded. And still, there are remarkable stories of courage. Doctors who continued treating patients despite knowing the risks, priests who comforted the dying, families who refused to abandon one another, ordinary people who displayed extraordinary compassion in humanity's darkest hour. These stories are rarely found in history books, yet they deserve to be remembered. For history is not only the story of those who died, it is also the story of those who chose hope over fear. Today, as visitors wander through England's ancient villages, medieval churches, and quiet churchyards, few realize they are walking across landscapes forever shaped by the plague. The roads remain. The rivers still flow. The castles still stand. But England itself became a different nation because of one terrible pandemic. The Black Death ended one age, and unknowingly gave birth to another. It changed how people worked, how they worshipped, how they governed, how they valued life itself. Perhaps that is why, nearly 7 centuries later, its story continues to fascinate us, because it reminds us of a timeless truth. Even in history's darkest chapters, human resilience endures. Empires may fall, cities may empty, generations may vanish, yet hope has an extraordinary way of surviving. And from the shadow of death, England found the strength to begin again. This was not simply the story of a plague, it was the story of how England was changed forever.